This week at the Shepherd Sabbath, we are teaching and learning together about how we listen for God, and how we listen for God in community and in solitude, and how we listen for God in the story. And basically, we're focusing on how we hear God in our stories in relation to the overarching story of God in the Scriptures. And so this morning we talked about how we hear God through our faith journey. And the clergy are here together, and so we've all heard a call from God. And many people talked about how they continue to hear and be confirmed and affirmed in their calling through other people praying for them, through their preparation for sermons and Bible studies, through journaling. Many people today shared that they hear God in creation and in the nature and being away. So many times we hear God when we are on retreat, away from our places of ministry and away from our churches and our families who we love. But God calls us out. God calls us away for a time of rest, a time of renewal, to hear from the one who knows us best. And then from that sense of knowing and hearing from God, we are able to move into action and move into ministry to love and serve God's people in community. Another thing we talked about this morning, we read a little bit of Parker Palmer's writing and how he speaks of the soul, and how the soul can be like a wild animal that is free and moves through the wild and nature just as it will. And then at the same time, a wild animal can be shy and timid. And so when we approach a wild animal, we don't rush after it and try to capture it. Rather, we sit by a tree, Parker Palmer says, and become a part of the earth and the nature and creation and just see what appears. And we're able to see these wild creatures. And so it is with the soul. And we talked about that this morning too, that when we are together in community, that it's important that we don't approach people in ways that attack, so to speak, but that we approach people quietly and allow some hospitable, sacred space for people to come into our churches and into our offices of our places of ministry and into our homes, so that people can find restful presence of God in us as we experience the soul together and as we experience God together.